Special from inside the White House.
When you stepped back in the Oval Office after you were reelected,
right,
what went through your mind? Triumphant when you walked back?
Yes, there's a feeling of triumph.
President Donald J. Trump on his 100th day in office from the #1 issue, the
My
economy.
uncle posted this on
People are
Facebook.
worried.
Okay, I'm not
Some people
clicking
who
that.
voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually.
To immigration.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at
I'm mostly trying to convince my lesbian femme studies PhD friend that you are socially acceptably misogynistic. I'm sorry, that's probably not going to work. Like that's not going to happen. I don't think. I'll be honest with you. As you have probably an easier time convincing a Trump supporter who's like super reactionary to look into what I'm saying and agree with me than a person with convictions to that degree. Like they've literally studied it. Sam is cooking. H3 fan close to 10 years here. Kind of a wake up call for me. Yeah, of course. Come on, dude. What do you think? This is how he is. This is how he has kept his community as like one note, as an echo chamber. Insta lock. I don't think you're misogynistic. You're just that you're a man. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that I don't have moments, but we're all imperfect. Wait, so an educated person wouldn't like you? Is this a cell phone or were you joking? No, someone specifically educated with a PhD on gender studies that thinks I'm misogynistic will most likely, if they already have that opinion, they're not going to change that opinion. Especially because like the irony, of course, is that my goal isn't to get someone like that on board anyway. What do I always say? If you're trans and you hear me talk about trans people, that's not for you. That's for transphobic people, you know? If you're black and you hear me talk about black liberation, that's not for you. I'm talking to white people and non-black people who have anti-black tendencies, anti-black opinions. That's it. Not this account either. Make a new one. What is this? No, they were both right and agreed. He just didn't agree that you were a piece of shit because he doesn't know the details of what's been done that led to the CPS and human skulls and such. Wait, come on. We have to, this is fascinating. Dude, Ethan Klein fans at this point are fascinating. You know I know Sam personally, right? Like for years at this point. Ethan himself didn't actually think that Sam was going to be as contentious. So you won't listen to black chatters, got it? Yes, that was my point. Yeah. You didn't I don't think you understood the point that I was making. Oh, you joke. Okay. Imagine someone saying, I have moments of racism, I'm not perfect. You would not let this shit fly for anyone else. It's why my friends who like your political takes find you hard to watch. What? Imagine. Wait, what do you mean? No, there definitely can be an instance where I will be off base. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. On every issue. Yes. I can come across as transphobic or racist in certain circumstances. Yes, that is not, I'm a human being. My friends who are women and myself sometimes. No, you thought you could catch me in this to be like misogyny is an acceptable bigotry for you as opposed to all these other bigotries. No, I'm saying I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. There were absolutely be instances where I get something wrong. What the f? Also, the fact that you're my friends who are women. I'm not a woman, but I have women friends. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, you are a woman. My bad. See, there's that misogyny again. I just assumed you weren't a woman. It was partially because I thought it was a silly argument. And I did not want to attribute a silly argument to a woman. All right. My food is here and I'm cracking my knuckles. It's time to get into it. It's time to dive in. Full interview. President Trump, first 100 days, the interview in the Oval Office. Remember, he basically said in this interview at a certain point, he brought up the fact that he chose this interviewer. He hand-selected this interviewer. So that makes it even funnier because when the interview doesn't go the way he thought it would go, okay, it becomes even funnier because he's like, what do you mean? I chose you. I didn't know anything about you, but I chose you. Chatter's low-key right, though. Not exactly easy to show your content to women. Okay, fine. Like, yes, listen, there is one quality to me that I will never be able to change. I am a man, and not only a man, but a man that exhibits a lot of tendencies that maybe some people might consider, depending on their own perspective, their own lived experiences, somewhat toxic, okay? I can't change that. That's who I am. And guess what? I'm not going to change that. So if you have an issue with that, then yeah, take it up to a bisexual lighting infused bread tuber, okay? There's plenty of them out there. Go listen to them then. Why the f*** are you here? Go listen to women. God damn. if you can't, if you're like, if you think someone like myself is exhibiting like, you know, impossible to contend with levels of misogyny, then there are a million different content creators out there that I think would be better for you. Okay. I can't change your mind, because I think a part of that is not coming from a place of like real issues. Chat really talking like you insult women all day, every day. I know. Like, you're making it seem like a big part of my commentary revolves around saying women ain't shit. Like, as a bisexual woman, these chatters are just on one is so stupid. Yeah. I'm an AFAB Emmy person, and everyone I know that watches you as a woman or trans, the only women that shouldn't like you are rad femmes or woke of the day types. Yeah. That's basically it. Anyway, let's continue. I got to stop. I did talk to one woman whose opinion I do care about quite a bit, even though I jokingly say she's my enemy, Maya Higa, who revealed to me that she actually watches me and said that I get one guide far too much and I pause far too much when there's a video that we should be watching, and she gets annoyed and she's like, please unpause the video. So, in honor of Maya Higa, I am going to unpause this video and I'm going to try to not get one guide, okay? I know many of you want this to be an opportunity where you come in and say, well, I'm a woman and you ain't shit. You're actually a misogynistic piece of shit or something along those lines. It's cool. I'm not going to entertain it right now. Maybe later. Okay. And to all of the male followers that came in here because they thought that I was an enemy of women. Okay. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Come back tomorrow.
The southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
To Elon Musk.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too reckless?
And the concerns from many Americans about the impact of tariffs.
Everything's going to be just fine.
President Trump, the first 100 days, the interview in the Oval Office with ABC News anchor and senior national correspondent Terry Moran.
Earlier today, I sat down with President Trump in the Oval Office for an exclusive interview on his 100th day of his second term. It was a great opportunity to ask him some wide-ranging questions about the issues that most concern so many Americans. We talked about the economy and his tariffs. We talked about immigration and those deportations. And you can see here the White House has put up some posters that they say show some of the violent criminals that have so far been deported. We talked about a lot more as well. The president's answers were provocative, at times combative, and always he was strong in his convictions about his policies. But before we get to the interview, we begin
I think you're responding to what Trump is saying, I think, right?
Tonight with a look inside the Oval Office.
I'm not going to get one
Donald
guide.
Trump
I'm not pausing.
has transformed.
Sometimes
Hello,
it's hard.
everybody. How are you? This is the Oval Office. This is the Resolute desk, which is really something very spectacular.
Oh my
There's
God.
nothing quite like it.
It's out of
And
focus.
they give you a choice of about 7 different desks, but this is the one I chose. Ronald Reagan had it. FDR had it. A few people had it, but I found it to be the most beautiful.
It is amazing.
This is an amazing space, and amazing maybe architecturally wonderful, but amazing for what it represents. It represents the U.S., and if properly used, a lot of good things can happen.
I see Ronald Reagan over there.
Yeah, and if
Ronald
improperly
Reagan.
used, Trump
Being in
happens.
the Oval Office is very important. See Ronald Reagan here, and put him a little bit larger. It sort of seemed to fit very nicely.
A little bit
You
larger.
have, Democrats a little bit. You have
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt. So you look at that picture and people say, well, what's he doing up there? But look, he was a serious president, whether we like it or not. He was a
Wait,
four-termer.
why wouldn't you like
and,
FDR?
Went through a war.
What the f?
You have Lincoln, you have Washington, but you look over here, that's Monroe, the Monroe Doctrine.
Why is he up there?
I think the Monroe Doctrine was pretty important. You know, that was his claim to fame. Over here, you have the original.
Chad, I say, why wouldn't Trump like FDR? Japanese internment camps is something that Trump would like. But even like Social Security and stuff, like, you're not supposed to say you hate those things. Those are popular things. People say positive things about FDR, even if they're Republican, usually, unless they're like crazy libertarians.
Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and of course, you have the Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot. And it's something very special to our country.
Lincoln's portrait up there. I'm not familiar with that one, but I think when I'm looking at that famous line in the second inaugural, with malice toward none, with charity toward all.
Well, he was a great president. He went through a lot.
And the Oval Office is always changing between presidents. And
It changes,
that says
yeah,
something.
it does.
What does this say about how you feel about the country and the office?
Well, I think it says I love the country. I mean, I'm putting pictures of presidents up that have never been up, pictures that weren't largely used. And in many cases, great men, in this case men, but great men.
Could
great
be women.
achievement.
And your every detail, it seems.
Yeah.
This is your office.
I'm a very detailed person. I'm a very clean person. I like cleanliness. I like to see the space be treated properly. I've added a lot to the space in terms of beautification, in terms of modernization.
It just means
Gallery
gold.
of Presidents.
It really is. It really is. So, and it's an honor to have you people with us.
Mr. President, thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Here in the Oval Office, it's special. 100 days into your second term. So what's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad. They were allowing people to come in from prisons, as you know, and you've heard me say it, but you've heard a lot of people say it. Prisons, mental institutions, gang members, murderers. We had many murders, 11,888, they think.
I'm sorry for repeating myself over and over again, but ironically, the faucet of misinformation that Trump presents makes it pretty impossible, makes it damn near impossible to combat. Everything he's saying here in front of a fucking journalist is wrong. Everything he just brought up is wrong. And what is he supposed to do? Like, the journalist is supposed to be like, wait, you're saying what? Like, they're coming in to do murders from insane asylums? Like, what? Where have you gotten this information? Is there any actionable intelligence that has arrived at your desk? You've been saying this since before you even got into office. Like, where did you get this information? Like, nothing.
Some murdered more than one person. So you had murderers coming in, you had everybody coming in, and not just South America, from all over the world. They were emptying their prisons into our country. And now it's totally closed down. And you've seen just yesterday, they announced 99.9%. Nobody thought that could happen. And it happened quickly, very quickly. And I think that's very significant. But we're doing other things.
Like, nothing. Nothing on that. Partially because the journalist wants the interview to be conducted at all. And he knows that if he starts pushing back here on the off rip, he's not going to get anything.
Things that are very significant. Results will take a little bit longer because it's one of those, it's complicated. It's many years of trading abuse. We've been abused by other countries for years and years. They laughed at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we're fixing it. And I think that's going to be very, very important. But
We have a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, I would really say that the border is so important. Just
And
can't
we'll get there.
let that
Immigration,
happen.
huge.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there. But I want to start with the economy, the number one issue for so many people, for just about everybody. It's one of the main reasons that you're back in this office. And now we have this trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing 3 to 5 billion.
Low-key, he's right. I'm sorry. He's 100% right. When Trump supporters say, oh, I didn't sign up for this, it's like, no, you did. You literally did. He said it like a lot. He said it nonstop. You can call him many things. You can call him a liar, but you can't say he's not fulfilling exactly what he promised. Now, there's also a goal there, supposedly, for why he's doing this, and that goal is never going to be accomplished. That part is a lie. But in the short term, the tariff stuff is absolutely prominently displayed in his campaign material. Prominently.
$1 billion a day on trade. We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year, not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. You know, I had the best economy during my first term. We had a tremendous economy, tremendous success. And we did tremendous numbers of tariffs on, we took in a lot of money from tariffs, China in particular, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. We had no inflation, as you know. We had an incredible economy. We're given credit for a great economy. But I said, we have to fix this, otherwise it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you'd said you'd bring prices down on day one, and that it would happen fast, and that it would happen fast.
I have.
Most economists will tell you that tariffs will raise prices. So don't your tariffs cut against that promise you made to bring prices down?
No, because I had massive tariffs on China, if you remember, in my first term, and we had essentially no inflation, like around 1% inflation, which is like a perfect number.
Dog, that's crazy to compare. One, prices for the key things that Donald Trump put tariffs on did go up. And two, that wasn't universal tariffs at 145%. And on top of that, the counter tariffs, the retaliatory counter tariffs that we received from China led to the American government spending more money on subsidies to farmers than they even collected from the tariffs.
And then when Biden took over, it went through the roof. It went to probably the worst inflation we've ever had. I mean, we had an inflation nightmare. Now, if you look at what's happening now, we're only there for 100 days, as you say. And in 100 days, we took over. We had bad inflation for 4 years, for 2 years of, especially 2 years of his administration. I would say record-setting like we've never seen. They say 48 years, the worst in 48 years. I say it was much worse than that.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you look at what's happened, energy is down. Gasoline hit $1.98 in a few states during the last couple of days. It was $3.50 and $4 and $4.50. But gasoline is way down. When I took over, you remember the big thing with eggs. They hit me the first week. Eggs, like it was my fault. I said, I didn't cause this problem. This problem was caused by Biden. What's the problem with eggs? And they said, they've doubled. And well, eggs are down 87% since I got involved.
A lot of that is
and
bird
by the way,
flu,
and there were plenty of eggs for Easter, which we just went through. There were plenty of eggs for Easter. They were saying you won't have enough eggs for Easter. My secretary did a fantastic job on eggs. Groceries are down. Everything's down.
Okay.
Interest rates are the same. Interest rates should be down, but we have a Federal Reserve that wants to be stubborn. They want to be cute.
We'll get to that. You said something a couple of weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices, you said, quote, hang tough. Yeah. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should expect, some hard times?
I've said that during my campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. You know, we had a tremendous campaign. I said all of these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every country all over the world. They're laughing at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we were. And I said, that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You know, you don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from maybe...
Covered this yesterday, but the price of crude oil has gone down, but the price of gas at the pump has not. And also on top of that, there's going to be some hard times in the recovery period. Would be correct if there was actually a recovery program, if he was also working on rebuilding a manufacturing base in the United States of America, rebuilding infrastructure, training the necessary labor force to be able to take on high precision manufacturing. You know, a competitive domestic manufacturing industry is a necessity. But because he's not doing that, and there's no plan to do that, and it's virtually impossible to do that within the capitalist framework that he has in mind, this trade protectionism is just idiotic, and all it will lead to all it will do is it'll lead to shortages, and it will lead to price increases and layoffs.
$3.20, maybe more than that, down into a much lower number. When you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs, right? We still have 145% tariffs on China. Your Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes, so 145% tariffs on China,
Yeah.
and that's good. Basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on
They
everything from
deserve it.
electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. They're not doing that anymore.
I want you to think about the boom that this country has had in small businesses, mom and pop Etsy stores, small businesses that became big businesses.
They haven't had a boom because of inflation.
Well,
the boom was inflationary boom. The people were wiped out with inflation. I mean, you read the news, you do the business stuff, I assume.
Now, a lot of them built those businesses on the trading model.
Yeah, and they're going to make more money
They
now.
sourced their products overseas, and now they're looking at an extinction event.
I've been here.
There's disaster.
I'm sorry. I'm so jealous. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. Why does he get this level of why does he get this allowance? Why does he get to destroy small businesses and restructure the economy, but not actually end up restructuring the economy? There's just no way that a Bernie Sanders style person, if they were to engage in like building a robust manufacturing base and then doing trade protectionism, there's just no world in which the media would not be calling for his head. Like this is infinitely kinder. This is infinitely kinder than what he deserves. Like, what do you mean? Well, he doesn't even ask, like, what do you mean when you say we're getting ripped off? Do you mean like the trade scheme that America has designed for the rest of the globe? Is that what you mean? Is us getting ripped off? Is poorer countries basically trading on the dollar? So we just give them IOUs and they get cheap labor as a consequence of that? Like affordable goods as a consequence of that? It's so annoying.
For them.
I've been here for 3 months. I've taken a trade deficit down to a number that's very, very starting to get really good. I just got here. We had a country that it was not sustainable, what Biden did to this country, between the open borders where criminals poured into our country, between every country in the world ripping us off on trade. It was not sustainable.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying we can't live a month, 2 months with these tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion being invested in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over a year. I mean, if you look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies. Companies are flooding into our country right now.
So your answer to the concern about the tariffs is everything's going to be hunky-dory?
Everything's going to be just fine. It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. I had a choice. I could leave it, have a nice, easy time, but I think ultimately you would have had an implosion. Our country had inflation that was worse than they've ever had it before. You don't mention that. Why don't you mention that? We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. People say 48 years. Probably in the history of our country, we had the worst inflation. And people were dying over the inflation. You know that. Now the grocery prices are coming down, the energy prices are coming down, gasoline's coming down. It's all heading in the right direction.
Okay, let's move on to immigration.
Coming up.
It is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods.
President Trump, the first 100 days continues.
Okay, let's move on to immigration. And as you said, it is an undeniable fact that illegal crossings at the southern border have plummeted, a staggering decline. But there are questions about your methods. And so I want to ask
About my message?
methods.
Incredible take from ABC. Thank you for your impartiality, sir. Yeah, I mean, if I were to... Here, crime is overwhelmingly committed by men who are natural-born U.S. citizens. Yeah, if I started killing every man who's a natural-born U.S. citizen with a state mandate, yeah, we would eviscerate crime. We would lower the likelihood of crime. If I started killing every child, every male child that is being born, yeah, we would eradicate crime, I guess. Does that seem like a good approach? I'm trying to win the girly pop nation back, by the way, with that argument. You guys like that? You like how I snuck that in? The rad femmes that are like, the rad femmes that say I'm not sufficiently pro-women, I think I'm bringing them back. I'm winning them over. How is that related to the question posed? It's because it's idiotic. Undocumented migrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. Like significantly less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. So the idea that you are trying to tackle crime across the board by deporting undocumented migrants is idiotic. Like your reaction or your solution to a problem should be at least sufficient and not more dangerous and not stupid or more violent.
About your methods, how you're accomplishing
They seem to work.
Do you acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first to make their case?
Well, are we talking about people that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you're not deporting citizens at this point.
Well, let me ask you, did they get hearings when Biden allowed 21 million, because I think the number is 20 million people to flow into our country? You had 21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want in many cases in our country, right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all over the world. We're talking about some of the roughest countries in the world they had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now,
but
did we give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials? Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
Bro, this is not an argument, dude. Oh my God. Chatters, I need you to understand how dangerous it is that J.D. Vance and now Donald Trump are talking like this, where they're basically gearing up the public for, yeah, no due process. We just simply can't do it. Yeah, if you want to do immigration enforcement action on 21 million people, you have to do due process to 21 million people. There is no, I'm sorry, it's just too hard. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Then, okay, reconsider and do amnesty instead, like Ronald Reagan did. What the fuck do you mean? We simply can't do regular trials for 21 million people. Well, there's your answer then. Then you don't do that, dipshit. Also, immigration hearings aren't trials. They take like a day, if even. It doesn't matter. Even if they were like a day-long process, which you're not wrong, it is much faster. It's much more swift because like immigration courts are different than the judicial branch. It's basically a function of the executive. But like he doesn't even want to do that. That's what's so crazy about it. Like he doesn't even want to do the rubber stamp approach. Like he doesn't want the paper trail associated with a rubber stamp. God forbid a immigration judge says no. I'm trying to think of a hyperbole to demonstrate how insane this is, but there isn't one. It's like if we stopped doing trials was my go-to. Yeah, like the eradication, that's still 21 million days. Yeah, man, that's exactly. I guess we have the same point, kind of like what I know. It would take a long time, which is why you have to make a different assessment. And the solution can't be, oh, it would take too long of a time. So we have to literally eradicate due process. Because guess what? As this administration has shown already, when there's no due process, they send the wrong people over there. When there's no due process, you can be sent over there if you don't look sufficiently citizen-like. Also, yes, there's not one immigration judge, and there is not one case that the immigration judge takes every day. It doesn't matter. 21 million is a massive number. There's no world in which, if there was actually 21 million people that have to be deported from U.S. soil, that have done like egregious crimes or whatever, first of all, America would collapse. Like, can you imagine The world that Trump presents without any pushback whatsoever. I want you to close your eyes and think about that for a moment. That there are 21 million drug dealing murderers who are parasitic forces on U.S. soil, and they are always just doing hundreds of thousands of murders a week or a year. Like, that would be a psychotic, that would be cyberpunk, dude. That would be video game Grand Theft Auto server, PvP unlocked. Like, think about it this way. There's a police force in every city in the United States of America, okay? There is a police department in every single locality in the United States of America. Do you know how many cops are in the United States of America total? 891,289. Okay. Now imagine, there's a cop in every city. Like, you've seen a cop. You see cops all the time when you're driving. Now imagine that there are 20 times the number of like bloodthirsty rape headers out there. They would be everywhere. What are you saying? Like, it's just like such a stupid number to present. It makes no sense.
Law is the law, sir. The law is the law, and you're
the law
sworn
doesn't
to
say anything
uphold it.
about trials.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country
Right.
illegally.
And
We
there's-
have to get them out.
There's a legal process for that.
I can't, sure, and we follow the legal process. I can't have a trial, a major
I'm
trial
not
for
saying
every
major.
person that came in illegally. We have thousands of murderers that came in. They're going to murder people. They already have murdered people in our country.
Right, so
we have to get them out,
They're
and we have to
bad
get them
guys,
out fast.
really bad guys. But in our country, even bad guys get due process, right?
If people come into our country illegally, there's a different standard. These are illegal. They came in illegally.
But they get due process.
Well, they get a process where we have to get them out. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the Venezuelans.
They get whatever my lord.
What does that mean? Don't let him move on from that. He's like, they get a process where we get him out. That's not what due process means. What the Like, that would be a banger response if he was joking. You know what I mean? If he was being purposely cruel and he was like, well, there's a process. It's called get him out of here. But this is a very specific constitutional protection that you are having an argument over. Don't let the president get away with saying, no more due process. Sorry, it's too hard.
Say.
Right. All right, let's talk about the Venezuelans. You deported more than 200 Venezuelans to that prison in El Salvador. You say they're violent, they're gang members, they're terrorists. Many of them don't have a criminal record at all.
Well,
but I want to.
I'm not so sure about that. If you take a look,
I want to read you something.
Excuse me. When you look at those people, they were violent people. They were violent people.
But many of them don't have a criminal record
Go
at this
ahead.
point.
I don't-
want
that's
to
what
read
you
something.
say.
Well, it's based
Go
on
ahead.
their lawyer, what their lawyers
Go
have
ahead.
said. Okay.
Go ahead.
Joe Rogan said this. Joe Rogan, one of the leading podcasters, Trump supporter, about the deportation of Venezuelans. He said, quote, rounding up gang members and shipping them to El Salvador with no due process, he said it was dangerous, and added, quote, we got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. Is Joe Rogan right?
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, we want to be careful, and we are careful. We're doing something that has to be done. We have a country that's very sick. Joe Biden, and it's not him because I don't even think he knew what the hell was happening, but the people around him are vicious people, and what they've done to the country is unbelievable. They've allowed 21 million people to pour into our country. Many of these people are criminals. They've allowed you mentioned Venezuela, the jails of Venezuela to be emptied into the United States. Do you know Venezuela crime is way down? Way, way down. You know why? Because their criminals are now living happily in the United States of America, and we're getting them out. And I was elected to get them out, and we're getting them out.
Under the law. It
And
sounds
we're
like-
getting them out fast, and we're getting them out legally. Now,
E-Style, I agree with everything you said, disagrees entirely. I wonder if Ethan's fan base recognizes that. Probably not. It is the same kind of narcissistic take where it's like, no, I agree with everything you're saying, except I don't agree with a single damn thing, and I'm going to keep lying. Like, just kidding. Don't agree at all.
Now, in some cases, we have judges. In some cases, they're radical left judges. What happened the other day where a judge was protecting a criminal was horrible. And I think she's got big problems,
Probably.
frankly.
I wanna
And
talk
there are a
about-
couple of them like that.
I wanna talk about one
Wait
man.
a minute.
Yep.
We have to be treated fairly by judges. And we're not being treated fairly by all judges.
Oh, that's a subject. So you're saying that you don't like some of the rulings, some of the court orders?
I think the rulings will be overturned, yeah.
All right. Well, let me ask you about one man and one court order. Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him to facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us, should not.
That's such a funny way to counter this, because he's saying like, no, the lawyer was too experienced. Like, I know he's trying to say it's a radical lefty lawyer, as in like Obama brought her in or something. Okay. But the irony is, half of those people that he's talking about are immigration lawyers and immigration judges. So they are already pretty reactionary. They're already pretty right wing. They're very conservative. And even then it doesn't matter, because like, that's normal process. Like, the problem with this lawyer, this immigration lawyer, was that she was following on the normal process. Because like in previous circumstances under the Trump administration, when you recognize that the federal government actually made an immigration enforcement action that was wrong, that was made erroneously, or there was like some kind of issue with the process, then they just admit that they're wrong, and then they demand the return of the person. Like, this has happened so many times. So that lawyer probably wasn't being brave or bold. That lawyer was going, yeah, this is what we always do. I've been a fucking immigration lawyer for 40 years. This is what I've always done. The problem is, now you have Donald Trump the second time taking on a much more insane stance on this stuff. So now they're punishing lawyers for doing their previously also very conservative, very reactionary positions on immigrant enforcement. Jesus Hasan, keep your explanations brief. What? Okay, my bad. What?
Not have said that, should not have said that, and just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound, this is a...
Bro hit me with the grok. Summarize what this guy is saying. That was amazing.
MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
Weird, because the wife is like actively petitioning the government to bring her husband back. So I don't know why you're presenting this as though it's a favor to the wife. I like that because the wife is also, despite being an American citizen, she's also brown. So for Trump, it's like easy to avoid that. Like, he's like, yeah, whatever. The wife doesn't know any better. She's basically a Mexican herself. Like, that's what's happening here. The wife is like, hey, can you please bring my husband back? This is crazy. And Trump is just like, yeah, he was beating her wife. He was beating his wife. Trump just launched his own state news website. Wait, what? Bro! Oh, this is funny. I like this. I like this for very nerdy reasons. This is, I think, basically trying to recreate Drudge Report. Famously, an old school right-wing publication that is now anti-Trump. So I think they made it look like Drudge Report on purpose as like a you to Drudge Report, to be like, yeah, we'll make our own. Most successful first 100 days in presidential history. Oh, I love this. White House Wire. Speaker Johnson, 100 days, 100 stories. POTUS, in the coming weeks and months, we will pass the largest tax cut in American history. Trump launches his own Drudge Report. Drudge Report. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, what is happening, dude? Oh, God, look at Drudge Report, by the way. This is literally so... Who designed this? I don't know, like some dude in 1997. The most racist guy from 1997 designed this and was like, I cooked. They have not changed the design of this website since it started. Yeah, GOCD. And it's funny because they used to be like, obviously they're like super right wing, but they became anti-Trump somewhere along the way. So that's why I think the Trump administration is recreating the Drudge Report, but within the White House. Anyway, let's keep going.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands, sir.
He came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, a great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my #1 issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshop. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
Right, we'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it
agree
was
to disagree.
Photoshopped. Well,
Here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir. I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted.
Yesterday, when I watched this part of the broadcast, when I watched this part of the interview, I realized something was wrong. I realized that this is full Brandon. Like he went, we have Brandonized. We have Brandonification that has been implemented in the White House. It is truly terrifying. I think Donald Trump actually believes that this dude had the letter M, the letter S, the #1 and the #3 on his knuckles. Ivy League educated conservative response to this, by the way. Another example of Trump taken literally, not figuratively. Of course he knows the gang member didn't literally ink that on his fingers. They were added to translate the tattoos. Did you watch the full video? He had MS as clear as you can be, not interpreted. Yes, I saw it. I'm confused as to how this is a point of contention. Well, Ivy League educated lawyer, debate perverts, obviously. No disrespect to your family members, but like, yeah, if they're lawyers, they are debate perverts, okay? What do I always say? Lawyers are debate perverts, and the highest level of debate pervertry, debate pedophilia, is when you become a Supreme Court justice, okay? Lawyers are debate perverts. Judges are also debate perverts. Supreme Court of the United States justices are debate pedophiles. It's like the highest level of debate pervertry is debate pedophilia. Accountants are money perverts. Also, MS-13 is quite known for not using dog whistles. Yeah, if you guys have ever seen an MS-13 gang member, this part is so funny because MS-13 gang members do not hide their affiliation with the gang. I've never seen an MS-13 gang member that is just like, oh, I'm shy about my gang affiliation. They literally will tattoo their eyelids, dude. They tattoo their eyeballs, okay? Like, you can tell when someone is MS-13. I can't say this is the same thing for other gangs, but for MS-13, it's like kind of their thing, where they just straight up will write the letter M, the letter S, and the numbers 1 and 3 pretty prominently on their bodies, sometimes their entire face. They will tattoo their scalps, they will tattoo their eyelids, they will tattoo their eyeballs, they tattoo everything, okay? It's not like there's dudes that just say MS-13 like right here. It's not like the guy that got deported, Lamau. Yeah, no, exactly not like the guy that got deported. The initial point of contention was that the tattoos that he had on his fingers were actually resembling. They were symbolic for the letter M, the letter S, the #1, and the #3. Okay? That's what was the assertion. Now, that assertion did not actually meet the standard of scrutiny initially that it was used in the immigration court arguments for why he was MS-13. Like, they did not bring up his finger tattoos, his knuckle tattoos in the initial detainment, in the initial immigration hearings at all, which means they didn't think that those were MS-13 tattoos. And as a matter of fact, they so didn't think that those were MS-13 tattoos that they actually didn't even bring it up until like 2 weeks or 3 weeks of controversy. The Donald Trump administration just basically made up a whole bunch of shit and then decided post hoc that this was the one to land on. But it didn't even end there. And the reason why I think this is a really particularly insane situation is because Trump doesn't even just think that his tattoos are actually symbolic, like this is an average MS-13 gang member, by the way. I wonder what gang this guy belongs to. I simply cannot tell. Okay, not exactly shy guys. Okay, not exactly shy, especially because like people say MS-13 gang members are like heinous, like particularly heinous. They do like incredible crimes, and it is true to a certain degree. Maybe not to the same degree as like Trump talks about them, but like they do a lot of fucked up shit. Like if they're around a cop, like it's over anyway. Okay, yeah, bro, he has multiple sclerosis. Microsoft fan. Yeah, that's what this is. That's probably what this is. You're right. In any case, that's not even the argument here for Trump. However, Trump is making kind of that argument, I guess, where he's saying MS-13 gang members, they don't hide. They don't hide that they're MS-13. See, he very clearly wrote the letter M, the letter S, the number 1 and number 3 on his tattoos. He thinks this shoddy Photoshop, or not even Photoshop, MS Paint job is literally real tattoos. He thinks this letter M, this letter S, this number 1 and number 3 on his knuckles is actual ink and not like something that a person, like a staffer, added on to the photo so that he could make a more convincing argument that like this is what the indication is. That is what this argument is. That's what Trump is saying right now. And obviously that's not the case. He doesn't have the letter M, the letter S, the number 1 and the number 3 on his knuckles. Obviously that's not the case. Except Trump is not doing this other thing where he also claims that the dude also had the word marijuana, the word smile, the word cross, and the word skull also tattooed. He just thinks these letters are tattooed. Why doesn't he think these are also tattooed? It doesn't make any sense. That's why I say, wait, so Trump actually believes the MS Paint markers added on are actual real tattoos? Does he also think he tattooed marijuana, smile, cross, and skull on his fingers? This is a severe cognitive issue. And it's funny because Tim Pool and everybody else basically kept saying, oh, you guys are R-worded for believing that. Holy liberals fall for this shit because their influencers are R-worded. Trump appears to hold up an altered image of wrongfully deported man's hand, to which Austerity's Theft reposted this and said, hey, Tim, tell us more about those R-worded libs. It turns out Trump is an R-worded liberal. He's a libtard himself. How is the cross and skull supposed to mean 1 and 3? They were saying that the cross is supposed to imply 1 because it looks like a 1, even though it would probably imply 4. And they're saying that the skull has 3 holes, and that's why it's supposed to imply 3, except the skull has 4 holes because it has a mouth hole too. So I don't even know why. So it would be MS44, I guess. But it doesn't matter because they made it up, chat. That's it. And here's the other thing. Yeah, psychotic numerology. They're reaching. They are reaching. Exactly. But even if that was the case, even if this dude had literally the tattoo of MS1 and 3, there has to be due process. You can't just decide post hoc. Wait, Tim deleted the tweet? No, he didn't. No, it's still there. You heard from Netanyahu since your secret meeting with him? Yeah, he told me you're gay. The only like good argument I saw was that he was trying to cover up the tats. You can see the shape 3 in the skull. I don't know. Oh, wait. So that's a separate argument. You're saying that he actually did have the M, the letter S, and the number 1 and the number 3 on his skull, on his knuckles, but then he tried to do a cover up by adding like a marijuana leaf and a smiley face. Okay, how does a smiley face turn into the S then? Yeah, this is the other argument I've heard. No, skull in Spanish starts with C, and C is the 3rd letter in the alphabet. Okay. Smiley face. What is that? How do you say that in Spanish? What letter does that start with? Why is S in English for smiley, but then skull is in Spanish? Sonrisa? Oh, it also starts with smiley, also starts with S? Okay. I'm believing it now. I'm on board. Carita de sonrisa. Smiley. This guy got me. Smiley face. Anyway, none of this matters because one, no due process. That's the point of contention. And two, Trump doesn't even make that argument. Trump makes a different argument. Okay. And the argument that Trump makes, the argument that Trump is making is that he already had the letter M, the letter S, the number 1, and the number 3. I'm using my words very deliberately and very carefully here because this back and forth shows Trump seemingly thinking that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, our Maryland resident, had the letter M, the letter S, the number 1, and the number 3 tattooed on his knuckles. He makes this very clear in his pushback.
This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry,
Ukraine, sir.
he's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
All right. We'll take a look at that.
You do
We'll take
such
a
a
look.
disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested. Ukraine.
Coming up, the Russia-Ukraine war
Don't
You
forget,
think he wants
this
peace?
is
You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
and that historic meeting. President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
I want to turn, I was just in Rome, and to that moving photograph of you and President Zelensky sitting in St. Peter's Basilica talking peace. It went around the world.
Sure.
Take us into that moment.
Well, look, the Ukraine is a very serious, very tough situation. And this is Biden's war. This is not my war, but I want to see if I can solve it because probably close to 5,000 young soldiers a week are being killed, Russian and Ukrainian. We also spend a tremendous amount of money in Ukraine, and Europe should be spending much more than us. They're not. They're spending much less. It's been badly handled by the Biden administration. It's been badly handled all the way around, the way around.
That moment.
The moment was a moment of solace, in a sense, because tremendous numbers of people are dying. A lot of his people are dying. They're being killed. And I feel very badly about it. I feel very badly about it. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. It was never even a thought of it happening.
It does feel like something's happening after that meeting with Zelensky in St. Peter's. You posted this on social media. There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas and cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe...
Well, that was part of my post, but you're right. That was a part of a post.
And
yes.
it says, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along.
Yeah, that's possible. Sure.
He might be...
He could be tapping me along a little bit. I would say that...
Damn, big concession here for the Pootie heads. Okay, big concession here for the Adolf Putler heads. Real Adolf Putler knowers, rise up. Trump is basically finally admitting that maybe he's being strung along by Adolf Putler. This is the worst interview he's done to date. The only one that I can think of that was more disastrous than this was like on his way out, he did that one Axios interview with the Australian guy where he would like just keep saying like, no one is dying of COVID, it's fake. But also China brought it to us because they wanted to kill us with a bioweapon. Also, don't get vaccinated, it's fine. Like that one lives in my mind. The Jonathan Swan interview lives in my mind as like one of the most insane interviews that he had done at that point. This one is like coming close to his COVID era arc. I think during COVID, he was losing it a little bit. Like he definitely was. I think it was also after he had gotten COVID. So he was just definitely not all there. But right here, mental decay has set in. Mental decay has set in firmly within the first 100 days. He's lost it. He's lost the plot.
he would like to stop the war. I think that if it weren't for me, I think he'd want to take over the whole country, personally. I always felt.
Do you have a Labubu? I do not. I will never be able to get a Labubu because Donald Trump put a tariff on Labubu exclusively. I do still like saying Labubu. I think it's very funny. It's a very funny word. Boo-boo lemon. Labubu. I'm afraid I'm going to have to fly out to Japan to get my Labubu fill He wanted to think he didn't really believe the MS-13 thing and he was just doubling down. But he seems right now to have really believed Putin and trusted him. I can't think of reasons he could be lying. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I don't like making assertions or I don't like making analysis off of like this person is crazy or this world leader is stupid and demented. Trump makes that very difficult. Trump makes that incredibly difficult for me. Just like Vladimir Putin makes that very difficult because he does do insane shit all the time. But I think Trump especially with the MS-13 thing is like, how am I supposed to not tell you that he's experienced significant mental decline? Has he come out since this interview and been like, no, I just implied that the knuckle tattoos meant MS-13? Like, has he done that yet? Because I'm expecting it. Like, I'm expecting someone to be like, Mr. President, can you please explain to the American population that you don't actually think that the MS-1 and 3 are painted on this man's knuckles in the form of a tattoo, and you said it in jest. Please just do the thing that you do always. Like, haha, you were just saying it in jest. You don't understand art of the deal. He is feigning mental fatigue.
So when I left,
because if I am to believe that he genuinely got duped by that MS-13 paint job, MS paint job, then maybe he does legitimately think that he's talking to Xi every night. Like they found like a Chinese American staffer to talk to Trump. And he unironically thinks like, no, I talk to Xi every day. He's in the White House. He's in the White House. I see him. Much shorter since the last time I saw him. That's right. He's Chinese. He's right here. I'm going to bring him out. Bring out the leader. Just random Chinese American staffer. What do you mean? I talk to him every day. He always tells me, Mr. President, you are so smart. We screwed you over. Bring out the Chinese.
there wasn't even a chance that this would happen.
Yeah, dude's not even Chinese. He's Japanese. He's like, I've been meaning to tell the president, I don't know how to communicate this to him. I'm Japanese and I'm not Xi Jinping. Come on, you know math. Don't lie to them now. You keep telling me you're Xi Jinping.
When Biden got involved, I won't say whether or not he handled it properly, but obviously it wasn't good because the war started. Putin went in, the war started. I believe that Putin wanted to get all of Ukraine once he went in. And I think part of the reason he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan, how incompetently Milley and all these guys handled that. It was one of the greatest embarrassments of our lifetimes, but maybe in the history of our country. Okay. So Putin went in. I think Putin wanted all of Ukraine. Right. I think if I didn't win the election, he would have gotten all of Ukraine. I think he would have taken all of Ukraine. I think his first choice, never with me, he would have...
Glaze. Sorry. That's just Glaze, big dog. Putin, he's so strong, he would have taken all of Ukraine. If it wasn't, he would have taken all of Ukraine. He was going to do it. He's going to do it any day now. That's what I'm stopping.
Never got in with this.
When the work of a great leader is done, the people will think they have done it all by themselves. All of us in China are Xi. Thank you, Top Xi.
This group of losers, he went in, he saw what happened in Afghanistan. He said, wow, this is my chance. Because it was always the apple of his eye. I talked to him. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. I think he wanted the whole country.
You've said for months.
And because of me, I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting. Don't forget.
You think he wants peace? You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes. I think
Still.
he does. I think
even with the raining missiles on.
I think he really, his dream was to take over the whole country. I think because of me, he's not going to do that.
Do you trust him?
Do
you trust him?
I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
And
happy.
then you start hitting me with fake questions. You start telling me that a guy whose hand is covered with a tattoo doesn't have the tattoo. You know.
All right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No,
just
I am
tell
not,
you,
sir.
I don't trust a lot of people. But I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me. And I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. Okay. It's a war that never should have happened. It did happen because of incompetent people.
Last question on this.
But it never should have happened.
If there's no peace deal, will the U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine?
I don't want to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I would or not. I want to leave that as a big fat secret because I don't want to ruin a negotiation. But
I'd be worried
I will
if I were
tell you,
Ukrainian.
I was not happy when I saw Putin shooting missiles into a few towns and cities. And that was not something that I like seeing. And I thought it was inappropriate. But I think the whole war is inappropriate.
Okay.
Again, it's a war that shouldn't have happened. This is a war that if the election weren't rigged, and it was totally rigged, the 2020 election, if it weren't rigged, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have had the embarrassment of Afghanistan. You wouldn't have October 7th with Israel. You wouldn't have had any of the problems that you have right now.
I want to ask one
and
question.
you wouldn't have had inflation either.
All right. I want to ask one question about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. There's a lot of turmoil at the Pentagon right now. There's the signal chat with his wife on it where he's discussing that attack in Yemen. There's another signal chat discussing the attack on Yemen. There's a reporter accidentally involved. You said the other day that you had a talk with the secretary. Did you take him to the woodshed?
I had a talk with him, and whatever I said.
Now, October 7th was Biden's fault. For real, bro. It's, you know what's really crazy about this? I forget which, I think it was JNS that wrote about me back in the day, the Jewish News Service, where the conversation that I had with AOC, where I was talking about how Trump's actions directly led to October 7. And they posted that, and like AOC agreed with me on this. And they posted that conversation as though this was an own, right? They were like, oh, how dare you say truth, right? And what's interesting about it is that if the Democrats weren't such hypocritical monsters in general on the issue of Israel, where they also were like, please go ahead, do as much unlimited genocide as possible. We love that, you know, go ahead. It's amazing. We love that you're doing a live streamed baby murder session every day. They could point to that. They could point to the polarization on the issue of Israel, but they are not doing that. And the reason why they didn't do that was because they also like it. They also like what Israel was doing. They wanted Israel to do this. Yeah, here it is. Abraham Accords moving U.S. Embassy to blame for October 7 attack, AOC says. Representative Brad Schneider called AOC's statement both ignorant and abhorrent. Yeah, here it is. Hassan Piker said that October 7th, the bloodiest day for Jews since the Holocaust, was a direct consequence of the Abraham Accords and many of Jared Kushner's and Donald Trump's administration's actions, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Ocasio-Cortez agreed, saying 10,000%, Jewish Insider reported. He is just as responsible for October 7 as anyone else, Piker said. It directly happened as a direct consequence of him moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the annexed territory of Golan Heights as Israeli territory, going against international law, and also conducting the Abraham Accords, completely sidestepping the Palestinians in the conversation. That is a major reason. I cooked. Once again, posting my W's. Thank you. And the funniest part about like pro-Israeli outlets in general is that they don't even try to say this argument is wrong. They just know that their audiences believe that this argument is wrong. What's the real reason for October 7? It's because, all Arabs and all Palestinians are anti-Semitic monsters that wanted to do mass rapes and they're barbaric, right? That's it. That is the real driving motivator in the minds of Israelis and in the minds of people who are pro-Israel, which is precisely the reason why they don't see any reason, just like the Free Press, did not see any reason to go through my remarks and address them or correct the record on them. They just basically expect their viewership to go, how could he say this? It's true. There's no counter to my point because it's correct. You see? But I think this conversation also demonstrates the depravity of the Democrats, like their morally repugnant behavior when trying to continue Israel's bloodshed instead of driving a partisan wedge on this issue. Part of the myth that is that opposing Israel on any front is inherently evil, so just posting this sort of thing as if it was a problem to say it is part of that. Exactly. But to the average person, they're not hopped up on Zionist propaganda to that degree, which is why this division has taken place even in the Western world at this point, where there is this generational divide. They don't have that propaganda baked into their consciousness. So they look at that and go, what? Why is this outlet even saying this is anti-Semitic? This is not anti-Semitic at all. The average person, like what a Hasbara rag, what a pro-Israel rag presents as anti-Semitic information is not going to come across as anti-Semitic information to the average person. That's it. And they just cannot figure that out because they're so lost in their own propaganda. They believe their own shit.
I probably wouldn't be inclined to tell you, but we had a good talk. He's a talented guy. He's young, he's smart, highly educated, and I think he's going to be a very good hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in
I don't
Pete
have
Hegseth.
100% confidence in anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
It's a pretty important position.
No. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
We will.
Let's go.
Coming up, President Trump on Elon Musk and Doge.
Did Doge go too far, too fast, too recklessly?
President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
Elon Musk and Doge. Everyone knows that there's wasteful government spending. It's really important. But the cuts have had some serious consequences. There have been cuts to foreign aid programs that save lives and keep people alive overseas. There's been research at the National Institutes of Health on cancer, on Alzheimer's, that has had to be stopped. And the question I think people have is, did Doge go too?
Like, again, not to be one note, I know that people get bored whenever I bring everything back to Israel. They're like, oh, you're so obsessed. But like, this administration is kind of obsessed with Israel, or at least using Israel as a using Israel as a way to undermine American civil liberties. But like, another question here is like, your administration has taken the initiative to revoke NIH grants from colleges that have had BDS movements, like boycott, divestment, and sanctions on the state of Israel movements. Don't you feel like, this is ridiculous? Like, there's no grant revocation for criticizing America, but there is a grant revocation for criticizing a foreign nation. How do you claim to be the most free speech principled president who is killing cancel culture while simultaneously taking the initiative to remove grants from colleges that are engaging in like cutting edge publicly funded research? You kind of are, man, not gonna lie. Yeah, you only think that if you are oblivious to the ways in which this administration is utilizing Israel and criticisms of Israel as a way to listen to my words. Listen to my words. Do you feel like that's not important to address here? Do you think it's okay for the NIH to erroneously revoke grants from colleges that have had students demand to boycott, divest, and put sanctions on the state of Israel? There's no other country on this list. It's just Israel. They just use Israel as a way to do this. Do you feel like that's important to bring up when you're talking about cutting NIH grants? Do you think this is my obsessive nature? No, Trump is dumb as hell. Well, it's not just that Trump is dumb as hell, goofy chatter. The interviewer is not dumb as hell, or at least is not supposed to be dumb as hell. The interviewer is supposed to ask this question because I think it's relevant.
Too far, too fast, too reckless.
No, I think Doge has been, saved $150 billion. We saved, that's a lot of money. There's also a lot of things right now under investigation, which is going to increase that amount by a lot. That's a tremendous amount of money. There were some things where, when I heard about them, I put them back, as you know. There are things that I'm considering right now putting back, but overall we've saved hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, the original promise was $2 trillion, went to $1 trillion, now to $150 billion, and heading south.
You don't know what it's going to be because we have things that are at a very high level that are being looked at right now. We also found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, as you know. We found a lot of fraud. There was a lot of fraud. Fraudulent things were taking place, and we ended that, and those people are going to be suffering because of it.
A legal note, fraud is a crime. There have been no referrals to the Justice Department on any of
Well, you don't know that, do you? How do you know that?
Have there been referrals to the, are there criminal referrals?
How would you know that there were no referrals? I think there were referrals.
They generally are. There's been no investigation from the Justice Department.
How do you know that?
I'm asking you, sir.
No, you're not asking me. You made a statement. You're not
now I'm asking you.
That was a statement that you made. There have
I'm
been.
asking you.
Have there been? Yes, there have.
So there have been referrals for fraud from the work of
there have been. Take a look at some of these things that took place.
All right.
Billions of dollars were given to people for no reason whatsoever. Of course there have been.
I want to bring up what is truly one of, to a lot of people, one of the biggest achievements of your first term. That is Operation Warp Speed. you got that COVID vaccine up and going and distributed, and a lot of people took it, and a lot of people feel their lives have been saved by it. Now we have this measles outbreak, biggest in a decade in Texas, and it's because people aren't getting their children vaccinated. Do you recommend to parents that they get their children vaccinated for measles?
Well, I recommend the governors to make the decisions. You have a very talented governor of Texas, and he's making decisions, and those decisions are going to be made rapidly. This is a very much different thing than COVID in terms of rapidity and speed and other things. Measles have been with us a long time, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that the governors are making the decision. It's a federalist decision.
The president is our leader in so many ways, and your voice counts so much, and you can't tell moms and dads, it's a good thing to get a measles vaccine.
Do I recommend it?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I recommend it, yeah.
Got it. That was
my
my
mandate
question.
it? No.
No, I didn't
But I
ask.
do recommend it, yes.
Good. Do you think you're...
And I have recommended it.
Do you think the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has a history of, at the very least, vaccine skepticism, do you think Kennedy recommends the measles vaccine?
He did. He recommended it. Yeah, he did.
You're satisfied with his
Yeah, I mean, he
response on this?
recommended that they go out and get the vaccine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still ahead.
I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
President Trump, the first 100 days, continues.
I want to talk a little bit about presidential power, the powers that you have in the presidency temporarily that the American people have given you, right? You've revoked a lot of people's security clearances. You've revoked people's security details who are still threatened, with death threats. You've gone after law firms because they've employed people you don't like, or they have represented people
Well,
you
they
don't
obviously agreed because they paid me a lot of money.
like. Well, the reason they agreed is because you were threatening to destroy their business with your executive order that said you can't represent clients for the federal government. That's their bread and butter.
Boys. These are the biggest, most powerful lawyers. These are not people
You got a lot of
that are
leverage as
easily
president.
intimidated.
As president, you've got all the cards.
They paid hundreds of millions of dollars because they felt, I guess, they probably felt they did something wrong.
It was for survival, sir.
No, it isn't.
You're
No,
crushing their business.
These firms are very powerful firms, and there's 15 of them. And these are firms that probably, look, you have to ask them. In fact, this is a separate story. You have to ask them, why did you all pay Trump hundreds of millions of dollars in services, etc.? Why did you do that? I don't know.
You don't think that
we have a clause in the thing that, while we admit no wrongdoing, but it's like one of those things. And now I'm friendly with those firms, but it's, these are the most powerful firms in the world. And they just signed whatever I put in front of them. I've never seen anything like it. I'm actually surprised myself in a certain way. But they obviously felt they probably did something wrong. I guess that's why they signed.
I guess the question out of that.
Sorry, I was talking to the groomer because Kaya sheds twice a year, and she sheds uncontrollably, and she started shedding again. So I was asking the groomer like what to do in that situation. I was like, what do I do? How do I deal with it? Like, should I get any tools or whatever? Yeah, there was a groomer in my house. He's gone now. Dr. Disrespect. She sheds a lot twice a year, but while she's shedding she sheds for like 2 months almost. Winter coat, summer coat. I don't know. Once in the spring and summer and once in the fall, winter. So all year technically, yeah. So I was just trying to ask like, what can I do? Should be 2 big blowouts a year for her coat. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Has Kaya ever interacted with cats? Yesterday, she did a little bit. She just treats them as prey. If you save her fluff, birds will use it to make nests in the spring and the summer. She needs a bit wider place bed there. She's struggling a little bit and get comfortable. Thank you, Chest Twitcher. I know the approximate size of bed that makes her comfortable. She's pretty comfy, I think. She sleeps on it literally the entire day. We use a Furminator on our dog. Yeah, that's what I've heard. This interview actually paints kind of a sad picture. He's this curmudgeonly old man who should be on top of the world as a leader of the free world, and it sounds like he's muttering about how everyone's out to get him, and he's surrounded by sycophants who are saying, yes, sir, you are so right. Everyone's against you, you poor thing. I mean, that's kind of what happened with Biden, too, except he was like, that's kind of what happened with Biden, too, except he he also was just like so totally and utterly brain broken that I think he just couldn't comprehend what was going on around him.
Is the concern that people have. Are you using your powers as president to get personal revenge?
No, I'll tell you what. You're really not asking, and you should be asking. There has never been a president in this country, in the history, that was persecuted like I was persecuted by really crooked people, dishonest, horrible people, and it's been proven. So when you say I'm treating people rough, I'm not treating people rough. I was treated worse than any president in the history of our country. And, you know, people figured, well, maybe that's it. Finally, we got, you know, he's leaving town. There goes the helicopter. And then I came back. And I came back because I have tremendous support. You know, when you win an election like I won it, and you will admit I won all 7 swing states, I won the popular vote, I won 2,750 districts compared to 500 districts. That's why the map is all red. And those people feel that I was treated unfairly.
But does that give you the right to go after your political opponents with the powers of this office?
I'm going after, all I'm doing, hey, Biden did something to me, and I did something to Biden. And you know why I did it? Because he's grossly incompetent. That's not a man.
Trump needs to be stopped. Hassan, do something. Trump on possible toy shortage. Maybe the children will have $2 instead of 30. Guys, it's not toys, it's figurines. But also, in any case, it's another one of those like weird, oh God, I hate finding myself in a unique position where I hate finding myself in this like weird predicament where on the one hand, he's like kind of doing degrowth. So I'm not even totally against it. But on the other hand, it's like he's right. He's just the worst person to make this point. You know what I mean? Where it's like, he's not wrong when he says this, but it's not like there is an alternative that he has designed anyway. And it's not just toys. Does that make sense? It's not toys. We're not talking about just toys. We're talking about like every single thing that comes out of China that is used in the process of manufacturing. God, I hate it. I hate it. I hate him so much. He makes me so mad. The way he operates makes me so mad. One, he makes me mad because he causes a lot of harm. But two, he makes me mad because I'm jealous. I'm jealous that he gets to do this. And he doesn't actually get the same pushback that like a Bernie Sanders type would. A Bernie Sanders type would probably lead to a little bit of economic instability in the short term. Okay. But like the expectation is that any Democrat that wants to fix this system that is fundamentally flawed is going to go through the ringer, and they're not going to have a base of support like Donald Trump has. A base of support that's just like held together by pure cult-like religious fervor towards their leader. And also, it won't matter because Trump can f this up. Trump can basically break everything with no actual real discernible solution. It makes me so jealous. And I think any leftist that tells you that this is not like unimaginably frustrating to think about with like a leftist Trump, right? Like an actual socialist Trump doing a similar thing. Any leftist that doesn't recognize that is lying to you or they're just delusional. Like there is definitely something to admire about what this was able to get away with. I hate it. I hate it so much. He has king power, and to use it as a central planner would fix this country inside 5 to 10 years. That's what yes. If there was a figure that was able to just be Trump, if Trump got beamed with the socialism dart, the socialism laser tomorrow, and restructured the American economy, nationalized the extraction industry, and created this, central planning committee where they rebuilt this robust manufacturing base, like all this stuff. And he was still the same like dipshit who just goes on TV and he's like, I'm going to do this and it's going to for a little bit, but it's going to be good. 20 years down the line, you'll be singing my praises. Like that would unironically extend a lifeline to the American empire, to the project of America. But unfortunately, that's not happening. The exact opposite is happening, where we have a reactionary loser who is stupid and is isolated from obviously anyone with a semblance of intelligence, surrounded by sycophants, breaking everything with no solution to fix it. And we have a Democratic Party that is supposed to resist against this kind of thing and undermine this project, but they're too busy trying to find the oldest person in Congress to put into a position of power. They're like, where is the oldest guy in office or gal in office? That's what they're too busy doing.
That should be allowed to, be looking at things that are very confidential.
But what about
because he
there's
didn't?
71
Here's a
people you
man that
revoked
used
to.
an auto pen to sign very important documents. Now, who really is? Do you think he knew that they were using an auto pen? I mean, he used an auto pen to sign very, very important documents, and so those are really the questions you should be asking. What do you think of the auto pen? Who wielded the auto pen? Because whoever that person was, think of it, whoever the person that wielded the auto pen, he was really the president of the United States. Because
You are
I
the
don't
president,
think,
right.
I don't think that Biden knew anything
Okay,
about it.
fair enough. But you are the president now, and
Yeah.
I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
Yeah, he's like, what about all the shit that you've messed up? What about everything that you've been messing up? He's like, well, Biden had an auto pen. Okay.
No.
That
People
is
that
it.
I think are dishonest. It's not that I don't even know most of them. They're people that I
These
think
people
are
made you
dishonest.
angry.
No, it's not anger. These are people that I think are very dishonest. I don't think they're worthy of being able to go into top secret
I don't
information.
even know what the angle is here. Like, what is his obsession with the auto pen? Is he implying that like Biden was held together? Is that the conspiracy? Is that like Biden was held together by a group of people that were like making decisions at his behest? Is that what it is? Like that's, and I guess it's not like that crazy of a suspicion.
I think that's fine. And Biden did that with many of our people. But when you look at it, these are people that I don't think are worthy. That's my decision. It's not a question of anger.
Okay. I understand you just had a phone call with a new Canadian premier, and they just had this election.
Yeah.
You were a big issue in it, and Canadians, many of them, are really angry, furious about your talk about we're going to take over Canada's going to become the 51st
That's
state.
their prerogative.
And it kind of is of a piece. A lot of travel is down into the United States from around the world. It
We're doing
feels
great.
like there's been reputational
The country's
damage.
doing great.
Well,
Prices are down.
not the tourism.
Gasoline's down. Energy's down. Tourism is going to be way up. Wait till you see the numbers. The tourism is way up.
Not now.
Now Canada, tourism's doing very well. We're doing very well. We're doing very well. Wait till you see the real numbers come out in 6 months.
Dude, what? Dude, that's crazy. Like, this is such a ridiculous lie. There are immediate numbers to very quickly just, show that he is lying. He's like, tourism is down like 30% by some countries. You don't need to look at 6 months from now. You can look at right now. People are legitimately scared about being detained by a Gestapo officer and possibly even sent to CCOT or not be able to enter the country. Like, what? There are travel advisories from a bunch of other foreign nations. And to be fair, they're not even being hysterical. So many Australians will not go here anymore. Dude, I was thinking about that. Like, I want Boy Boy and I did a thing to come here for the summer as they always do. But like, also at the same time, like they've been around. Okay. I feel like they're just gonna not be allowed into the country. Headache Papaglio link, please. This is so hard. So you don't notice the messages of substance. This is so hard, man. Can you check the logs? Man, this hurts my head. Headache Papaglio link, please. Please, Hasan, I need help with research. I give up. Yeah, okay, give up. What the is Headache Papaglio?
From now, when you see the numbers.
But do you
They're gonna
think,
be
I'm going to
very
ask you,
good.
if I may, do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst, I have to be honest with you.
Thank you for the opinion, but more importantly, thank you for having us here. I have one more question. It's a big one. It's a question that a lot of people have out there. What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again. We have a country that was failing. We have a country that was laughed at all over the world. We had a leader that was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. The election was rigged. He should have never been there. Our country suffered greatly, and now our country's coming back like nobody can believe. I have editorials just today where they're saying they've never seen anything like it. They love it. Our country's coming back, and we're respected again.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, Terry, very much.